You are now watching MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast TV. Chill!
I mean, we grateful for people like you that do that. I like to see my people win, but I like that you like to see your people win as well. That's big. No, not a lot of people do that. So I
Thank you.
appreciate you for that. That you want to see me win as well. So I appreciate that, Pam.
Of course.
All right, so despite seeing people win, you introduced me to a business called I Am Academy,
Right.
and I want to know how did you get into it, and how was your experience in it, and how did you join?
Okay. So, I'll give you like the basics of it. So, I Am Academy is pretty much it's an educational platform that teaches, people the fundamentals of how to trade in this market called Forex, right? And they have educators that pour into you. And to me, what is the most important was the mentorship. Like I've
Mm,
been like I've been doing entrepreneurship for about the same time I've been handling billing. And
mm,
it this company has like by far the best mentorship that I've ever experienced. Like the amount of outpouring love and support that we get here is something, that has been life changing for me. And of course, anything that is new was scary.
yeah.
Um, so actually my mentor, she introduced me to this opportunity because we actually used to do another venture together. So when she came to me, of course, I trusted her because I knew that she wouldn't tell me something she wouldn't do herself. And that's the same thing for me. I would never tell someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself, or
Fact,
or that I
definitely.
trust. So she was a trusted source that told me about it. It was new, it was scary, but I didn't hesitate because I'm one of those people. I've learned along the way that you have to take chances and you have to give yourself that chance to see if something else will work. So although because I was in finance, I'm in finance, right? And I was handling credit and learning how to budget and all these things, I knew the next step for me was to actually learn how to multiply my money.
Mm,
And so when she told me about the academy, I'm like, okay, this is new. I'm scared, but I'll give it a try. And one of my things that I was so scared of was math. Like I really am
mm.
not good at math.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is math. But because I took the chance and I hopped on, I realized this is not math. It's all about strategy and thinking and learning graphs. Is pretty much
Mm,
learning how to read a candle, which is pretty much it looks like a bar graph.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, it's just movement. You're learning how to read movement within this market. And to me, I'm really happy I took that chance, because, having multiple streams of income is so important. And,
Very,
you
very.
know, I realized that having a business with credits and just working, it was cool, but my money was still stagnant. Like I was making money, like I make good money, right? However, my bills and my money was like hand in hand, like nothing was moving. Like
Mm.
if that makes sense, it was
I know
just
that
like
makes sense.
I was just stuck. And when she spoke to me and told me about it and listening and actually being in the market, I realized, wow, like I can actually, and I hate to use that word flip, but I can actually like increase and flip my money.
Mm.
And that has really catapulted my income. It's crazy because once you really stick to it and you focus and you stay consistent and learn this, you can really just like increase your income by like daily, like compound it. And so that's pretty much what IML is. It's just an educational platform that's going to teach you how to multiply your money.
The question, about the DCOM party podcast. So we already
Yeah.
got that. But before we continue, like out of 3 podcast show, you know, She Effing Did It, the Silhouette Podcast, and the DCOM podcast, which one did you start first?
So Decom Party was the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get too ahead of you there.
No. Well, interesting, because that's perfect. It set up the next question. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So tell us about She Effing Did It.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So she fucking did that. Can I curse on here? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
you can.
All right.
Yeah.
I should have asked you before. So that one is really cool. So one of my dear friends, Layla Brinzia, she's in LA. I'm in New York, also Florida, depending where I am during this pandemic. So she and I started a podcast last year, actually. I should have mentioned that first. We didn't do it for long. And but she wanted to do another one, and she's like, fuck it, let's just talk about badass women. And I'm like, that's a wonderful idea. And because I was an intern at Refinery 29, and that really got me into just like really like celebrating women a lot more than
Nice.
I grew up. Like it wasn't, of course we celebrated women, but it wasn't at like a level that I knew it should have been. So I got into it more, and it's all about the badass women that we never learned about in history class. So we do our research, we say who our sources are, we tell their story, and hopefully people will listen and want to learn about just different people. Yeah.
Nice.
And especially with 2020, so we're really pushing to have people at first register to vote, but of course actually show up at the polls. And so we have a thing called the suffragist saga. And as everyone knows, well, at least we know now. So in 1920, 100 years ago, the 19th Amendment was passed that gave women the right to vote, but it wasn't all women. So what we wanted to do was really celebrate the Black and POC women who helped us get there in 1920, and also help us with further voter equality today, and accessibility. So that's what we've been doing. Well, I think it'll be about, 9 episodes total that were with those, like just with that saga into it. But yeah, we're really trying to do some good in the world, and just share stories.
And compared to where you are now.
Okay, wow, that's a great question. So growing up, and I might have touched on this briefly when you were on my show, but growing up, I lived in a household with my siblings, my parents, who are still married to this day, and
Nice.
It was a different experience. Definitely grew up in a neighborhood that was not as great as others would have, but I didn't let that affect my adult life. So my neighborhood was really filled with gang violence, drugs, just across the board. It was a lot of that growing up in the 80s and in the 90s, of course. So, it was difficult for a child, but we made the best of what we had, and we made the best of the resources that we had too. Another thing is that, grew up in the church. The church was literally right down the road, and we would used to walk to church, my parents and my siblings and I, and, it was again, interesting is when I look back, being 40 years old now, when I look back, it was interesting. But when I was growing up, I would always say it was a horrible experience for a child, but again, made the best of it.
Yeah, me too. But one thing that happened is y'all living under the rock, and y'all haven't checked out the season 1 finale. DJ Retro left the show, and it left all of us shocked. And we haven't really spoke about this yet. How do you feel about him leaving? The way he left, I should say.
That could have been done in a text. Honestly, you know what I'm saying? Here's my thing with Roddy. I got love for the homie Roddy. You know what I'm saying? We've been rocking for like damn near 20 years. That is my bro to the fullest. Having said all that, I feel like, you know, you don't wait till the end of a season finale to be like, yo, I'm out, and we don't give you no talk time. You know what I'm saying? You know me. You listen closely to the podcast, right? I'm like, what do you think, Roddy? You know, where we at with it, right? You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm like, if you're going to handle certain things, you know what I'm saying? That's cool. But that shit should be handled in the text.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the fact that everything that he was doing in that episode, from that episode and the last episode before that, was very unprofessional for me, man. I was just like, yo, what you doing, son?
Yeah, like we get to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? However, you know, I'm an understanding guy. You know what I'm saying? As everybody knows, I'm an understanding guy. I might not give a fuck all the time. I am an understanding guy. Here's my proposition for Roddy, and I really hope you're listening to this. And we're going to get into this right now anyway, because, you know, it's just me.
Yeah. Oh, but before we get to the but even though Roddy is through working with me for a little bit on the old school show, even though I try to bring it up to him, like, yo, why you left the show? Like, I don't want to talk about that. Let's just do this and then I'm out. I'm like, oh, like, he gotta do it. I'm like, okay, Roddy. I'm like, wow. Like, wow, Roddy. He just gone savage, man. He just hopefully
that's crazy, bro.
Which is why we're gonna announce this here. Season 2, February 11th. New day, Wednesdays. Every Wednesday now. February 11th. Premier Boy Podcast Season 2 starts.
You already know we back with it.
Also, we are looking for a host for Season 2 to replace Roddy.
Yeah, but you get a host. We need somebody that's energetic, that you will be able to jump out the page with us, you know, and actually, you know, contribute to this journey that we on called the Premier Boys Podcast.
Yeah, and also, you know, Miss Mademoiselle, if you want to come back to the show, if you want a job as a full-time host, let me know.
We got an opening.
We got an opening.
But, you know,
but before we go overboard, you say you got a proposition for him.
Okay. So during this quarantine, specifically during this whole Premier Boys Podcast Season 1, Season 2 break, one thing I actually wanted to get into was doing my own podcast. Right?
Nice.
So I'm announcing right here on MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast TV that Kink Talk with Aaron Sands is coming soon. It's a brand new podcast with yours truly, Aaron Sands, only Aaron Sands, giving you basically, you know, lend me your ear 15, 20 minutes of your day. I give you my thoughts on today's current topics, popular topics, you know, current events, you know, things like that. You know, I'll give you my 2 cents on that. Basically, things that we don't touch in Premier Boys Podcast, we will definitely be touching on King Talk with Aaron Sands. Also, I'll be giving advice for those, you know, who might be going through it, those who going through relationship stuff that might, you know, being the fact that I'm the only one in the Premier Boys Podcast who's in an active relationship right now. I feel like I'm able to give you a little bit of, drop a couple of gems on you on your daily travels. So yes, that's King Talk with Aaron Sands, coming soon right through the MrGentleman Podcast.
You are now listening to Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast Season 4. Cheer!